When it comes to pro-blacks, they spend most of their time online on social media talking about white supremacy. In their eyes, everything that has to do with the dysfunction in the black community has to do with white supremacy. And these guys will spend every waking day on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and other pieces on YouTube and other social media talking about white supremacy like it's some sort of thing that they can be, you know, taken out like a virus with some antibiotics. And again, this shows you the childlike perspective that many of these pro-blacks have regarding the complex social and economic issues in the black community. But when you listen to many of these guys, while they talk about white supremacy, they usually spend most of their time arguing with other black people who disagree with them. And I have to ask the question, how is that constructive in helping to build your so-called ideal black community? Aren't you going to have to work with some of those people? Aren't you going to need resources from some of those people? Aren't you going to need the support of these people? So how is tearing down another black person pro-black? How is this empowering other black people when you tear apart people simply for disagreeing with you and having a difference of opinion regarding certain issues? The whole thing with your pro-black that I find is that many of them like the sound of their own voice, and many of them live in their own head. And because many of these pro-blacks live in their own heads, they can't see things from a realistic perspective. And this is why they cannot understand, that you are going to need, if you're going to so-called build a black community, you're going to need economic allies, political allies, and social allies in order to help you build that community. Because a community is not just one individual. A community is a group of people. And not all of those people are going to agree with each other. But your pro-black, they have this idea in their head of how things are supposed to be. And this is an imaginary concept. Again, it's like a small child. And a small child, oftentimes they'll imagine something and they'll see it a certain way, but when you try to translate those ideas to reality, they often find that they have to make compromises to accommodate um, realistic, the real world. And what your pro-black does, again, they live very much in their own head. They have these imagined ideas of this utopian black community, and these concepts just do not fit reality. And whenever you try to present, some sort of fact or logic to your pro-black, this is where they start coming in with their shaming tactics, calling you a coon, a black buffoon, a sellout, or an Uncle Tom. And when this doesn't work, or this doesn't allow, their acolytes, sycophants, to come after you and also come in and attack you, they, then want to take their ball and run away from the forum. Again, this is very childish and juvenile behavior because in the adult world, you're going to have to deal with people who disagree with you, and they're going to have their vision, of how things are supposed to be. And what happens is usually you have to make a compromise, and where you get some of what you want, they get some of what they want, and that's only fair because they are also investing something in this black community. And with your pro-black, again, they live in their own head and they think everything is supposed to go in one idealistic fashion. And, that's just not how the world works. And attacking those who are trying to help you, you know, does not help anything. And this is the big problem, with a lot of your pro-blacks. Again, they don't really want to work with anyone. They really, they have an imaginary, very childlike perspective of things. And they have not really, a lot of them haven't even traveled, so they don't understand how the real world works. They haven't even gone outside of the black part of the World Wide Web and, seen how people have, used things like your YouTube or your Facebook to build businesses, or even use things like Amazon or eBay to build businesses. In their world, they think that they can build an entire black community off of simple things such as your shea butter or your black soap or your DVDs where talking heads go on for about 2 hours talking about white supremacy. These are not products that you can use to build a black community. And, complaining and arguing about white supremacy is not going to build a black community. That's all just talking. It's hot air. And listening to armchair Negroes sit around and vent hot air doesn't solve the problem. I mean, with this pro-black, they never think that rolling up your sleeve, you don't have to get out here and roll up your sleeves and, get to work the same way that I do every day. And that's a lot of work. And that's just something that your pro-black doesn't understand, that, you know, this is not something that's going to come easy. And what happens with these guys and these women is that the first thing that they run up in a little bit of resistance, these guys start falling back, and then they fall back into their victim position. Again, talking more and more about white supremacy. When it's not white supremacy, everybody has to face challenges. I mean, I faced a lot of challenges when I started the SJS Direct Publishing imprint. I had a steep learning curve with Photoshop. I had a steep learning curve with page formatting, and I had a major challenge in trying to, you know, learn how to write press releases and learn the ins and outs of book promotion. I had to learn social media, and guess who helped me with a lot of that? It was a white woman. And, I can't sit there and talk about white supremacy because there were white people who actually helped me, along the way. They told me about Twitter and Facebook, and that helped me a long way. You're going to need allies, you're going to need support, and you can't just sit there and bash people and then expect them to help you. When you look at many of these black people, you know, they think that they're the only authorities on blackness, and their solution is the only solution for the black community. And this is not true at all. Yes, there are some tenets that are true, but with simple solutions, but things that require the building of infrastructure and economic resources require, a group of people to work together. And this is something, again, many of your pro-blacks don't understand. They think that by attacking people, they're going to win an argument, but in the end, they wind up losing long term because they don't understand that there is a much bigger picture regarding um, regarding economics, and that in an economic situation, nobody's going to sit there and beg and plead with a pro-black and deal with their, you know, I'm going to take my ball and go home, or you're going to have to do everything my way, junior high school mentality. When professionals are like this, we want to meet goals, we want to meet goals, and we want to work with those who want to help us without, 100 different strings. Because this is something the pro-black loves to do. They love to say, we'll support this black product, but we want 100 different strings. Now, your average other business will say, you know what, we're going to support this product because we like the product, and we like the person, we like their attitude, um, and this is why we're going to support the product. We may ask for one thing, but when you're pro-black, they come to you with 100 different strings, because that again shows their codependent mindset. Because your codependent person, what they like to do is they like to add a whole bunch of strings to something, because they feel that this is the way that they can control someone. And this is what they do. And when you understand your pro-black and you understand how dysfunctional they are and how, again, they have a very childlike view of the world, they don't understand how things work. And, you know, most of your pro-blacks, they sit there, they talk about these concepts. They may use 50-cent words, but their comprehension of, concepts regarding economics and business, again, it's on maybe a third or a fourth grade level. It's very, very childlike. And, you can't have group economics when you keep alienating members of the group. You can't have group economics when you continue to attack people in the group. You can't have, a black community where everybody has the same monolithic thought, because not everybody's going to have monolithic thought. God made us all to be independent human beings. He gave us all free will, and it's not possible for everybody to have a groupthink concept, because that's not the way God made men and women. He made us all to have our own independent thoughts, our own independent views. Yes, we may agree on a consensus regarding certain issues, but we're not all going to have monolithic thought. And what the pro-black doesn't understand, that being on the same page does not mean monolithic thought. Being on the same page means, as a team, we have agreed to a certain consensus on solving a certain problem in the community, or solving a certain problem regarding a business situation. And once we've come to that consensus, everybody knows their role and works on their part, and they all work together towards completing the goal regarding a certain situation. But you know, and that working on goals, you're not going to have time to be sitting here talking about white supremacy. I mean, talk, talking about white supremacy is again more hot air, and telling me that this is here is not going to change anything. I mean, this is what your pro-black does. They sit there and talk about white supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. Well, talking about it isn't going to do anything, and neither is marching and protesting. I mean, how does that solve anything? Because you're going to march and protest um, using what, poster board from Staples and markers from Staples. Again, another white-owned business, but that's going to lead to a black revolution. Again, this just doesn't make any sense. And when you listen to your pro-black, they often talk about all these ideas again, your child's perspective, um, not understanding how the world works economically, socially, and politically, and that's just the way the world, and that you need allies, you need support. You're not going to do it alone. Nobody's just going to sit down, listen to your ideas as the only ideas, listen to your, you know, imagined solution as the only solution. And this is what your pro-black just doesn't understand. They live, again, because they live inside their own head. They love the sound of their own voice. They love the sound of hot air. They like making, YouTube videos and documentaries where they go on and on, talking about white supremacy and talking about, the utopian ideal of a black community, and never coming once to the understanding that, things are a lot harder than what is imagined in your head. And when somebody presents, a counterpoint like I do, here come the ad hominem attacks, here come the shaming tactics, here come the bully tactics that pretty much show the immaturity of many of your pro-blacks. They live again. They have a they're like small children, and their conceptual ideas are like that of small children. And you can't have a revolution, without making any change. This is what's the craziest part about your pro-black. They want change, but then they don't want to change themselves. They want us to remain the same. They don't understand that when you make changes to something, you're going to change too. You're going to become different, and your views are going to become different. And when you're trying to build something, so-called, that requires resources, economic resources, and it requires allies to help you not only build what you build, but to protect what you build. And this is again why attacking other black people is ridiculous, because how are you going to get the support to protect and support what you built when you're attacking other black people? And this is what makes no sense to me. I mean, because a lot of these guys, they spend most of their time attacking other black people, um, trying to make video after video attacking them, making social media posts attacking them, telling others to boycott them, and again contradicting their very own platform. I mean, if you say you love black people, then why are you attacking other black people? I mean, that's no different from your gangbanger, your dope dealer, or other assorted individuals in the black community. If you say that, and what makes it worse, I'll just say what makes it worse than your gangbanger, your thug, and your dope dealer, is that you have here a black person attacking another black person just for having a difference of opinion. I mean, that's fascism right there. We live in the United States of America. People are entitled to express their opinions and their views, and but your pro-black wants to turn the black community into some sort of fascist state where they're the only ones who are allowed to express ideas and opinions. Again, they remind me so much of the junior high school bullies I ran into at IS 148 over 30 years ago, and I look at these pro-blacks and their behaviors, and basically they are just like bullies. and they go and they can't approach a man face to face. They always have to come with their acolytes and their sycophants, and their acolytes and their sycophants don't even know that they're being manipulated by a puppet master who wants to control, who only wants power and control, but then doesn't want to take any responsibility for anything. I mean, again, I keep saying this because it's true. They talk like small children. Their ideas are like small children. They do not understand, the subtle politics transpiring around them. They do not understand the complexities of the situations regarding them. And they do not understand that, the way the world works is a lot more complicated than the local neighborhood. And that in order to get resources, again, you need economic allies, political allies, and social allies in order to, really build on a platform. Building platforms requires diplomacy, tact, and, sensitivities to people. Now, as a guy who has written some, really caustic blogs in the past, I understand that, sometimes I don't, which I did write those blogs just to wake people up, but I understand that, in other business situations, there requires a bit more diplomacy, and your pro-black thinks that being adversarial and confrontational like a black female, you know, is constructive and positive, but in a business situation, it really doesn't work. All you're going to do is wind up alienating people and offending people, and again, you need allies in order to so-called build and construct, and you're not going to have much going for you if you wind up alienating the very same people you're trying to get support from. And this is just one of the big problems that your pro-black has. They think that they can, you know, bully people and intimidate people, but nobody's really bullying or intimidated, especially those who have wealth and those who have high economic resources. So they look at this guy, he's coming to me, begging and pleading, and, you know, but he wants to try to bully me and tell me he's going to do it on his terms. And if I have the money, I don't have to do anything on your terms. And you listen to these guys, and once they see that their bully platform doesn't work with those who have economic resources, they look at him and go, then he's a racist and a white supremacist, or he's a coon, a black buffoon, an Uncle Tom, or a sellout. Not understanding that, again, in the business world, it requires a little bit more diplomacy and a little bit more attack. You can't just go around attacking people and then expect them to continue to try to support you. But you're pro-black, again, they think that their way is the only way, but then they wind up, waking up to a harsh reality um, when they are confronted with, real business situations and real business, um, doing real business. They just don't understand how things are done. And, you know, just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean that everybody's an enemy. And this is another thing that they do, because these are all feminine traits. Um, because this is what happens when a woman disagrees with another woman. What she'll do is she makes everybody into an enemy, and that this is the way they approach things. They approach things from a very, very feminine perspective, and I say that's why I call them 12-year-old girls, because this is the way a 12-year-old girl is. If you disagree with her that Barbie isn't the best over Monster High, then she doesn't want to be your friend anymore. Then she tells other people not to be their friend anymore. This is the behaviors that many of your pro-blacks participate in. And they can't stand hearing a difference of opinion. I mean, I saw this type of behavior way back in junior high school, IS 148, and I continue to see it, on Facebooks and YouTubes and other social media regarding situations, and they wind up, alienating the very people who wanted to, help them, and then they wind up, pushing people away, and then they wonder why they struggle to make progress. The only then when you struggle, and the whole thing is, then they want to continue to say it's racism and white supremacy, when it's actually their own personality and own attitude and abrasive approach that's pushing people away from them. That's all I have to say for this video. Comment, rate, and subscribe.